What's up, everybody, ladies and gents? Welcome to another Codex Comic Character of the Week. I'm your host, Jamie. With me, as always, we got Sal.
Hey guys, how you all doing? You can find me at Sal's Comic Corner on YouTube and the Slab Guy 77 on Instagram.
And Dan.
How's it going? You can find me on Instagram at Dan Kelly Art. You can search hashtag Dan Kelly Art, where I post my artwork, like this Wolverine and Hulk covers that I did, which
Those are nice.
up.
Yeah.
And lots of art and lots of music. So go check it out.
And we got Kevin.
Hey guys, you can find me and all of us on Facebook in the group Comic Character of the Day, where we post a character every day, a question, and a really cool cover. We go relatively obscure sometimes to get the conversation rolling about who's who and what's what, and where to start if you're interested in getting into comic books.
Yeah, awesome. And who was the character of the day?
Today was
Iceman, wasn't it?
Nice. Great pick. Kind of goes with what we're talking about today. But guys, before we get into who we're jumping into, because the name is in the title, if you haven't figured it out already, guys, go check out the CodexStation.com, your one-stop shop for everything Codex. Buy some merch, meet the team, find us on all of our socials. We are on every podcasting platform known to man, so there is no reason you shouldn't listen, watch, like, share, subscribe, all of it. You guys, it's at your fingertips. So go check out the CodexStation.com. Or just click the link down below.
Buy some stuff.
Yeah, buy some stuff, because every penny does help the station grow and helps us get, new gear if we need it, or keep the shows just going. So thank you for everyone who has so far. But without further ado, we are going to be talking about Wolverine today. So with that, Dan, take it away.
All right. Well, Wolverine, his first appearance was back in 1974 in Incredible Hulk 180 or 181. Depends on who you ask.
I was going to say that if you said just 181, I'd be like, what about 180?
There was some controversy with that.
Is one of the most hotly debated first appearances. I'd say Wolverine
Fiercely.
and are the two most debated first appearances. But yeah, 1974. He was created by Roy Thomas, Len Wein, and John Romita. He is a mutant. He has powers. He is the super fast healing, and his claws and enhanced senses, and his claws and his bones are covered in adamantium, which is an unbreakable metal, the strongest metal there is. And his origin is a little more convoluted than most of them. So he was for the longest time, nobody knew his origin. They kept it a secret, and then little bit by little bit, they would tease stuff, and then eventually they did a series that just laid out his origin. So he was born James Howlett in Canada in the late 1800s to rich landowners John and Elizabeth Howlett, and he was the illegitimate son of their groundskeeper Thomas Logan, who had an affair with Elizabeth Howlett. After Thomas is thrown off the land, he comes back. He kills John, and then James's powers manifest, and he kills Thomas, and he goes on the run with his childhood friend, Rose. They hold up at a mining colony in the Yukon for a lot of years until he grows up. He accidentally kills her with his claws. He goes to live in the forest with the wolves. He gets captured by a guy named Saul Creed, who just happens to be the character Sabretooth's brother. And Saul sells him, he got captured and was in the circus, was rescued from the circus by Saul Creed, who then betrays him and gives him to Nathaniel Essex, also known as Mr. Sinister. He breaks away from there, kills Saul, goes and lives with the Blackfoot people. When his lover Silver Fox dies, he joins the Canadian military, fights in World War I, World War II, joins the CIA, joins Team X, has false memory implants put in, gets captured and experimented on by the Weapon X program, escapes that, lives in the forest for a while, rescued by James and Heather Hudson of Department H, fights the Hulk, quits Department H, joins the X-Men.
Man.
Like I said, convoluted.
I was like really.
Are you done?
I was looking, I was like, what can I cut out that's not essential? And I was like, all of that is kind of essential for him to get from point A to point B.
And that's the show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you all for coming. Again, Codex Station that not. But no,
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a little more convoluted than most of them are.
Well,
is it, now is it safe to Sal? Is it safe to say when it comes to Wolverine? Because there's a lot of characters you can say this about, but I feel like he is the threshold of this. Is how much the character has been retconned over the years.
I was just yep.
I mean,
it seems like every other series he comes out with, there's these minute changes that don't seem like a lot, but then when you look at the overall scheme of who the character is, it's a totally different character than we were presented.
Yeah.
I mean, originally his claws were just going to be claws that came out of his gloves. They weren't going to be in part of them. And then it was decades later when it was, he actually has bone underneath the claws. And then it was just, we're going to add this and we're going to add this. And because of the memory implants they gave him, it pretty much gives writers carte blanche to say, oh, no, that didn't really happen. It was actually this other thing.
Yeah, it's the memory implant.
Yeah. The original concept is he was going to be an actual Wolverine that was mutated into human form.
So ladies and gentlemen, he is an animorph, basically. Yeah. No, but speaking
Roy
of,
Thomas did say that was not, because it's always said that's what the original plan was going to be, and he did come out and say like that didn't come from him. So I don't know if that's just some fan theory that took traction over time, or some other writer that had that idea. But I knew at one point they were going to have Sabretooth be Wolverine's father.
Yep. And then for a while in the comics, he was his brother. You know what I mean? It's convoluted, as we said.
Right. But, with all the retcons and everything that's happened throughout the years, Kevin, why don't you tell us some of the best scenarios that he fits best into?
I love the interpretation of Wolverine as a samurai, an honorable warrior that's fighting against his own bestial berserker nature. That conflict of the two aspects of himself, while all of it being like, I am a warrior. That is like an absolute truth. But what kind of a person, what kind of a warrior do I want to be? I think is tremendous. And he's a really interesting character because I've read more than one issue where he's fought entities like Phoenix level, where they'll fight where the Phoenix will fight the entire team and then turn to Wolverine and is like, do you want some of this? And Wolverine's standing there with his claws out and he retracts them. And he's like, nope. It's like, there's nothing I can do. I choose to retreat, regroup, and fight another day. Like, that is not something that they usually will focus on or do in comics. It's like, I'm going to fight to the death. The way they write Wolverine fighting smarter rather than harder, I think is a tremendous thing. I love that.
Right. So, Sal, you got thoughts?
Yeah. I kind of agree with the samurai sentiment that Kevin was talking about, but I also like it when they write him using his animal senses, using his enhanced senses, like tracking a deer, going right up to it to touch the deer without freaking it out. And he has there was another moral code that he went by or had because Storm kind of got on his ass about hunting a deer, and he was like, I'm not hunting a deer, I'm just tracking it, I'm going right up to it without making it flinch. He goes, but in a fight, if a person comes at me with their fists, then I'll meet them with fists. But if they're coming at me with something worse, a knife or a gun, or if they're starting to threaten people, then then all bets are off, and I'm going to take you out. There's no question about it. So I like that, and I also, what else did I write down here? I like it when he's written to he plays a solo character, the loner, but he also likes to trash talk as he's fighting.
Yeah,
he likes to trash talk, and I love that because he's like, it's like he could back up the words he's doing when he's trash talking. He can back it up as well. So that's what I like. Dan, what do you got?
I was going to say, I remember that issue. It was, in the all new, all different days when he when Storm got on him, and he said, it doesn't take anything to just kill it, but to like sneak up on it and get right there where you can just touch it, that takes skill. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like him. I like him in two things. I like him when he has to go up against, impossible odds, or he just has to go up against, all right, here's 100 ninjas and Wolverine, and you just drop them in, and it's just pop the claws and just go to town. And you see him in the fight, and you see the bodies around him, and he's standing there with like arrows sticking out of him and like a sword coming out of here, and when he's like bloody and battered, and then and you think, oh, he's done, and he can barely stand, and then you see Silver Samurai walk out, and he's like, all right, let's do it, let's go. And I also like it when they really have him utilize all his military and spy training, because he fought in World War I, fought in World War II. He was in he was in the CIA, he was in Team X. So when he has to do almost an investigation and go to like Madripoor, then has to find somebody there, and he goes and finds some scumbag in a bar that he worked with 30 years ago who points him somewhere else, and then he has to go to somewhere in Japan, and where he kind of goes to all these places that he's been before, and you really see the history of how long this guy's been around, and then they'll do like little flashbacks of, oh yeah, this guy needs my help, and it'll flash back to like in the 70s when he when he was running in the CIA and had to help some guy, and and now flashing forward to when he needs help, like stuff like that, to remember, yeah, this guy's been around for a really long time. He's accumulated a lot of knowledge. He's accumulated a lot of people that he knows. So
Yeah,
I definitely dig when they start doing stuff like that.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Jamie, how about you?
So stay with me on this. My favorite scenario to drop him into is when Logan has a motive. Anytime there's something that he has to do where it comes to like a revenge or a goal set, that is the best Logan Wolverine we can get, because nothing's standing in his way when his mind is set.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is one of the best traits about him as a character, and I'll get more into it about where they suck at it, but I think that you see it throughout all the issues. Like even if you look at the Phoenix Saga when they're trapped, he is literally the whole time while everyone else is freaking out trying to figure out a way to escape. The entire time. There was never a moment where he's like, yeah, you know what, you're right, we're screwed. No, he's looking, he's trying to like decipher the room. He has a goal. He has this wanting to get out, this animal instinct that he's like, we're gonna find it. I don't care if I have to dig, claw, scrape, we're gonna get through, and we're gonna figure it out. That's where I think he fits best when it comes to scenarios being played.
I can see that. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's good.
But like I said, speaking of scenarios, there has been so many badass moments, like we kind of already touched on.
Tons.
Sal,
Oh
take
my
it away.
gosh. All right. So, of course, I'm going to go with my favorite one first. And this is going to come from Uncanny X-Men Volume 1, 133, the Hellfire Club fight scene. Where he just, he's just popped up out of the sewer. Like in the 132, you see him pop up from the sewer. And he's like, all right, suckers, you've had your chance. Now it's my turn. So 133, he comes in and he's taking out guards left and right. Some other guards have like already shot him, like riddled them full of bullets and stuff like that. And he gets down to one of the last guys. He's like, and then he starts this, like I said, his trash talk. And he's like, can you still kill Wolverine? Even though I've been hit with all these bullets, I can still get to you before you can get off another clip. He goes, you think you're lucky enough to do it? Can you think you can do it? And the guy like backs down and drops the gun. And he's like, yeah, I didn't think so. That type of thing. It was it was a classic moment. So I love that.
Remember then he said he was disappointed that the guy didn't.
Yeah, the guy was disappointed that he didn't do it. Yep. Yeah. So, and then for later on in that book, he starts realizing that the guards or the security in the upper portions of the mansion or wherever, the Hellfire Club, are not like armed guards. So he's not killing them. He's retracted his claws and he's just kind of just beating them up. but he's got like 4 or 5 guys tied around him as he bursts through the door where all the X-Men are tied up. And that was just classic. And that starts the breakdown of the Hellfire Club, because that's when they start turning on each other. Because I think the leader of the Hellfire Club starts accusing Leland of not, doing his job to kill Wolverine, that type of thing. And then that's what starts the whole breakdown on the Hellfire Club. And then, of course, the X-Men get freed and then turn the tables on them. It was pretty cool.
The Inner Circle.
The Inner Circle. Sebastian Shaw. That's the name I was going for.
And that was really the first time in X-Men when Wolverine let loose on his own.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. All right, so, Dan.
No,
you got 2 more.
God, Mama, God.
We went so far into God, man, I thought you explained 17 and 1. I was like, okay, well, we got it.
Okay, hold on. I'll go through these last quick, okay? All right?
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Okay. Next one I like from Uncanny X-Men 162. They just fought the Brood, and his body has rejected the Brood egg.
Yep.
And it was that scene where, she's being transferred into a Brood, and he can feel his mind changing, but the transformation can't take effect because of the adamantium. So he uses the adamantium as like a life jacket or a life thing, last resort, and he hangs on to that, and it is finally his body rejects it, and he can see them in the later pains, and he's got like the Brood pattern on all over his body, like rejected it, but it's still healing and fixing himself from that. So that was a pretty cool badass moment, I thought. So next badass moment, and it's going to be a question to you guys.
Okay.
Do you know when the first real fastball special happened?
It was Uncanny. Give me a second. I got this. 80. No. 93.
No. The first real fastball special was 100.
Oh.
What you're thinking of is when Colossus threw him over the wall.
Yeah.
Okay, so that wasn't really a fastball special, but that led to it. But so
see, I know of it.
Okay, all right. So fastball special, as you all know, is where Colossus or some stronger character picks up Wolverine and hurls him like a fastball, and that's become a classic fight move. What's that, Dan?
I said it's got to be Colossus.
It's got to be Colossus. But She-Hulk has done it in the past, and yep. And even in the Dark Phoenix saga, actually, while on the moon, they do a reverse one, and Wolverine throws Colossus at Dark Phoenix. So
I don't remember that.
Yeah. And then now for my last one. This is the best one ever.
All right.
Uncanny X-Men number 145. They had just fought Dr. Doom to a standstill, and Wolverine does not bluff. So he's got Dr. Doom pinned down. He's got his claws right at his faceplate. And he's like, I'll offer you a deal. Free storm, or I'm punching my blades through your faceplate. He goes, then again, I'm a good guy. I could be bluffing. And Doom's like, nope, you don't bluff. You don't bluff. Here you go. He goes, then that much we're the same. Here's the thing, the free storm. So those are my badass moments. Now, Dan, you may take over.
All right, well, I'm going to go one outside the comics. I'm going to go something from the movies. From the first actually, it's 2 things from the first X-Men movie, and it's not so much badass of him fighting. I'm adding this one in because Sal took my one for the Hellfire Club.
Oh, sorry,
but it was towards the end of it when they were storming Ellis Island, and they're when the X-Men first go in, and he walks through the he's got his claws popped out, and he walks through the metal detector, and it goes off, and they kind of turn back and look around him, and he brings the middle 2 claws in and leaves the outside 2 in and leaves the middle one out to flick off Cyclops with its claws. And then when Mystique comes out and she transforms at him and they fight, and then Cyclops getting ready to blast him when he wins. He's like, whoa, it's me. Cyclops is standing there like, prove it. And he goes, you're a dick.
Yeah.
That's a classic. That's all a right. Classic.
And then just that's it.
That was the only proof you needed.
That's taking the place of Sal stealing my Hellfire Club one. The second one is, I forget the issue of Wolverine. I want to say it was around 90 or something. It was the last issue before they went into Age of Apocalypse, and he was fighting Sabretooth, and it was like the be-all, end-all fight between him and Sabretooth. It was this like long, brutal fight, and it ended with, you know, where Wolverine always does the famous where he's got his hand there and like this claw one and the middle one's in, and he's got the, you know, he's seen it how many times, and he's got Sabretooth like that, and then he pops that middle claw right through Sabretooth's head right before everything devolves and becomes Age of Apocalypse.
Yep.
And then when it came back, you know, to the regular world, Sabretooth was like essentially just lobotomized. But that one was just brutal and awesome.
You're right. Sorry.
Is that the one where after that Sabretooth was like in the X-Men prison as a nice guy?
Yeah.
They were trying to
like
rehabilitate him.
The whole fight, that issue, but especially that ending was just phenomenal.
And you're right on the issue number.
And the other one I have is, even though Sal took it, I just have to. Well, it's the fastball special.
It's
not even a specific one. It's just Colossus and Wolverine. I guess if I had to pick one, I would say an Astonishing X-Men after they bring Colossus back, and the first time that they do it there, and it's just like, oh, they're gonna do it. Yeah, I mean, you just can't go wrong with that.
You can't.
That's great stuff.
All right, Kevin.
I got. Come on. Okay, so in Fear itself, Wolverine number 3. Wolverine was subject to a surprise attack by the telepathic Croydon, and a few panels shows what happens when Croydon enters Wolverine's mind. And you would think like, oh, you know, Wolverine, he has like the messed up memory, and he has like the whole limited protection against telepathic attacks from Professor X. But we don't know exactly how much, like how powerful, how ridiculous that is until this scene right here, where Croydon enters Wolverine's mind. And what Croydon finds is a berserk Wolverine comes out of a dark hallway and cuts and just like goes ballistic and just cuts and attacks and goes to town and berserkers Croydon. And we kind of pull out and we see the end result of that. Entering Wolverine's mind by a telepath left that telepath in question in a catatonic state, drooling on himself in the real world. I'm like, that is just sick.
Couldn't handle the experience.
Right. That's some serious next level shit right there. Number 2 is I don't have the number for this. I think it's Wolverine number 51. I may be wrong with that number, but when right after I don't remember the circumstances behind that off the top of my head. I did some research, but I don't know, the specifics escape me right at this moment. But it's they're analyzing Wolverine in the danger room, and Ford says, while analyzing him on a high level of difficulty in the danger room, Ford says, it's the equivalent of an Olympic gymnast doing a gold medal routine while simultaneously beating 4 chess computers in his head. I'm like,
that was from like issue 48 or 49, right? When it was kind of like the sequel to the Weapon X thing, where him and Jubilee are looking into his past. Yeah. That was like around 40. 48, 49.
49, yeah.
I know that. Thank you for giving me the number. I know that like he's one of the best fighters in the Marvel universe, but like checking that, like when he breaks it down like that, it's like, Jesus, that's crazy.
Yep.
And this is, I think, my number 1 badass moment for Wolverine. I'm probably going to pronounce this guy's name wrong. Matsuo Tsurayaba is the Japanese leader of the Hand Ninja Clan, and he's the one that was responsible for the death of his love, the love of his life, Mariko. Well, one of the loves of Wolverine's life.
Hmm.
And in response, Wolverine goes and finds this guy wherever he is, no matter what protection he uses, every year on the anniversary of Mariko's death, and cuts off another body part as a reminder. Like, oh yeah, you remember what you did to my wife? Cuts off a hand, a finger, cuts out his gallbladder.
Nice.
Holy crap. It's like what you were mentioning earlier, Jamie, where it's like Wolverine has a mission. There's nothing stopping him from like going above and beyond to complete that mission.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, that's insane.
Right?
All right. So I got my 3. Now, my number 1, I'm telling you guys right now, I had to put it number 1, but it's kind of a 2-character part involving Wolverine. So when we get to it,
Asterisk.
no asterisk. It fully involves Wolverine, but there's another character that's involved with it. But number 3, I got the fight with Hulk from Hulk 181. I think that's the most iconic fight you could ever think of and pair up. The iterations coming out of that, like we had Hulk versus where it was Hulk versus Thor, Hulk versus Wolverine. We've seen all that. That's a fight that we've been looking forward to forever, seeing on maybe even a live action platform.
Yeah.
And my second one is cutting off Sabretooth's head
Yep.
from Wolverine 55.
Yeah.
I think that was the moment where everyone's like, don't touch him. Don't go near him. Like, stay at the door. If he walks past you, don't even blink.
Yeah.
Just keep going. And my number 1, you guys ready for this? Is the adamantium being ripped out of his body by Magneto.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even though he does come back, ladies and gentlemen, so don't worry. That's why I think it's the most badass moment.
Yes.
But it was that moment that, like, to me, it solidified for me as a comic book reader how badass Wolverine is because he came back from it.
That's sick. Yep.
You know,
after that mutated to not have a nose.
Oh yeah. The non-nose. I have heightened senses.
It takes a while to bring all the body parts back. Jesus, when you're just a little drop of blood, some things might not come back the same way that they were there before. But yeah, those are my top 3. And yes, as always, there's these badass moments, but we also have to talk about why the character sucks at points. So, Kevin.
I gotta say, one of the things that I really am not a big fan of is their selective use of his heightened senses. Especially lately, they hardly utilize the fact that like Wolverine should not be surprised ever about anything, and they only use it as like an afterthought. Like, how do we actually portray Wolverine finding this didn't he have heightened senses at one point? It's an afterthought. I hate the fact that they never acknowledge Wolverine's heightened senses hardly anymore. I think they've really been severely dropping the ball on that lately. And that is, I think, taking a huge chunk out of what makes Wolverine really, really cool. That's just my take on that. But yeah, that's one of the things I really am not a big fan of lately within the comics with Wolverine.
All right, Dan.
I got a couple of them. I got even though I mentioned the origin series when I was, giving the much too long origin story. Even though the origin series was great and Weapon X was great, like I feel like the character worked better when you didn't know his full backstory. When you would get little bits and pieces of it, like, okay, we got Weapon X, and then you would get little bits and pieces here and there, and then you kind of and then especially when they would contradict each other, it's like, all right, what's real or what's not, and I think you work better that way before Marvel decided, like, oh, here's his origin, here's his real name, here's all this, and even though it was a phenomenal series, I feel like the mystery was one of the things that really worked for him.
That's fair.
I also don't like the way, and they don't do it as much now as they did previously. But Wolverine does not have to be in every book. He doesn't have to be a member of every team. He doesn't have to simultaneously be a member of the X-Men and X-Force and the Avengers and Power Pack and Fantastic Four and like they'll put him on, in every book. It was especially bad in the '90s with him and Spider-Man and Punisher, but he doesn't need to be a member of every team out there. And
It's funny that you should say that. I remember reading a comic where Cyclops was gathering a team, and it showed like everybody's reactions to being invited on that team, and everybody was like, "Awesome, I'm on the team." And Wolverine's like, "I can't be on every single team out there."
yeah. And then the other one is the last one is, I feel like too many writers make his healing factor overly powerful. Like if you read it when he first appeared, and then when he was first in X-Men, he had the healing factor. He'd be able to heal really quick, but it wasn't like something where they could blow him up and 2 panels later he's healed enough that he's going and fighting Sabretooth again. Like he would get hurt, he would get injuries that would prevent him from operating at full capacity. Right. And then somewhere along the way, they just decided to make it like, oh, well, we'll have somebody pour lava on his arm and everything will melt away except for the skeleton. And then, in a page, we'll just have it all heal back up. Like it's not, they make it too powerful.
Yeah. One of the things that I think is really cool about that, though, is their explanation of his healing factor is actually much more powerful once the adamantium's out of his skeleton. Yeah. The adamantium poisons his system to an extent that limits his regeneration, his healing factor. And that's just a minor detail, but I think that minor detail is a really cool little fact.
Yeah, you're right. Mm-hmm. And that's something where the older he gets, his healing factor should be less powerful, not getting more powerful. But I think it's easy for writers like, oh, we can just drop him in this and, we'll literally, drop a cargo ship on top of him and it'll sit there for 3 hours and then Colossus will come knock it off and he'll just get up and be like, hey, I'm fine. Let's go get a beer. Like no, he's not indestructible.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Regeneration from a drop of blood is a little bit much.
Yeah. So, Sale.
All right. So I guess turnabout's fair play here. I took all your guys' badass moments, and you guys took every single one of the comments I was going to do about how badly things are written. So, I'd like to ask when his backstory was a mystery, and he didn't know, and you got snippets here and there, here and there, that type of thing. I hate the way things have been retconned a billion times over. And I don't like the fact that his healing factor is like you said, almost indestructible. It's like, come on. How does he regenerate from a drop of blood with the adamantium? I mean, that just didn't fly with me. And yeah, so those things really kind of bring me out of that character for a while. And what was the other thing you said that I was going to agree with? Super saturation. He is super saturated all over the market, and that kind of ruins it for me too. Because if there's a story that'll involve him, like he's got someone from his past, and he bumps into Spider-Man on the way, okay, because that kind of organically fits into the situation. But it's just like he's on every team imaginable known to man, and probably some secret teams that we don't even know. Right. Oh, I've been on that team for years, that type of thing.
How is he in New York fighting with the Avengers in one book and another book that comes out the same month that's presumably taking place at the same time? He's like on the other side of the galaxy fighting with the Starjammers or something. And then in another book with X-Force and they're running a secret op, in Latveria or something like that.
Teleporter. He's got a teleporter. He's got, Gateway. You know who Gateway is, right?
Yeah, he carries Gateway around with him.
Yeah, exactly. So, Jamie, what do you got for us?
So, back to what I was saying earlier about why he was great. The thing where I see where he kind of sucks for me the most is when he's just laid back. I can't stand a laid back Wolverine, especially with the newer right, like with what Hickman was doing. There was no worry in Wolverine whatsoever. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, we got to go take this on, and he's like, hey, you guys don't even need me. Have fun. Like, what do you mean have fun?
I'm gonna be
Like,
back over here drinking a beer. Thank you.
yeah, you should be in the fight. You're the reason you're there in the first place. Like, why aren't you? No, it's cool. You guys don't need me this one. I'm gonna sit this one out. No, you don't sit. No. It's completely ridiculous to have him sit out of any fight whatsoever that involves A, the X-Men, B, 87 other teams, and C, for himself just to be there and not have that fighting instinct kills me.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see him just lose his shit every second if I could, but I know we can't get that. But at the same time, when he doesn't, like I said, if he doesn't have a motive, if he doesn't have a goal in mind, to me, he's a useless character because all they write him off as is that, you guys can handle this. You guys don't need me. No, dude, like we want to see you handle it. Like that's why I'm paying money for the book. Handle the situation.
1.5 with your claws.
Yeah. It's like, why are we even playing that game as a writer? That it's like Wolverine in this book, and then it's just Wolverine sitting down having a beer. Like, you got this, bub.
So see, even though you said you didn't like Claremont, you like the Wolverine from when Claremont started writing X-Men, where he was just kind of a dick and he just wanted to fight everybody all the time.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, I mentioned the pre-show. We talked about it in an After Dark episode before too. Is I didn't like Claremont at the beginning because of the fact. Yeah, thank you. But
finally got to see what he was writing.
Yeah, so I seen it on the side before the show started, but when he was for those who can't, for our audio listeners out there, he wrote heathen and WTF on a piece of paper to show us. But I just didn't like the narration in it, like how it would be oversimplified, like you need to be like told every step almost. But I did learn to appreciate it over time, and I started liking the characters more now than I did when I was younger. Because when I was younger, I was all about the art. But I do like that fact of him. Like he needs to be a dick. Like sorry to say it, but he needs to be self-indulged, and he the guy, because there is not going to be a way to do it then. At least my opinion.
You mentioned something that I didn't think of for why he sucks. I do have an honorable mention, if that's okay to throw out here. Yeah. I appreciate the fact that he's mellowed out and like he's like, you got this. Bring back. They've totally turned their back on him losing it and going berserker. I miss like the whoa, what are you doing? Holy crap, he's gone rogue. He's gone next level with shit every once in a blue moon. Bring that back.
And it's funny. John Byrne agrees with it because him and Claremont, when they were doing X-Men together, didn't agree on everything. John Byrne didn't like how over time Claremont kind of mellowed Wolverine out and like added the samurai stuff to it and all that. So a couple of years ago, John Byrne on his website started doing his own basically X-Men fan fiction that picks up right after the issue when he left, right after Dark Phoenix saga, and tells the X-Men story essentially that he would have wanted to tell if he was still on the book with all those characters. And it's really cool, got some fantastic art. But one of the things he did was he did something in the story where he basically devolved Wolverine back to the character he was when he first joined the X-Men, where he just, he couldn't agree with anyone, couldn't get along with anyone, wanted to fight all the time.
Awesome.
All right. Well, with that being said, let's get into some comic covers. And for the audio listeners out there, we will be saying what the comic cover is and the number so that way you guys can look it up yourselves if you guys need a chance to. Actually, today we're going to start with Sale.
Woo.
All right. There we go. There's my 3. So, and I'm guessing I'm gonna go on a limb here and say the number 50, Wolverine number 50 from Volume 2, where the claws have brandished through the the thing. It looks like a file folder from a drawer, and it has the claw marks ripping through it. It's Manila folder. Thank you. This was an excellent for cover for me. The book itself, actually, Jamie didn't use the picture I sent you because it has. You can see the what's behind the claw marks. Mm-hmm. What's behind the claw marks is you see a bit of a fight between Wolverine and a robot. It's called Shiva, I believe. It's probably one of my stories. And
the file was too small. It would have been like
so
smaller than everything.
All right, next time I'll try to do better with the file size for you. But anyhow, it's actually cut through, so you open it up, you can see through it. It's actually embossed cover. And back in the I guess was what 90s when this came out, this was just a awesome book cover. So next one up, where are we here? Wolverine number 8 with Mr. Fix-It. This is Wolverine's volume 2. Early on, he's Patch in Madripoor, and he has a Hulk next to him, and they're dressed like a bouncer. This is just, to me, a freaking awesome cover. So Wolverine's kind of leaning up against them with one set of claws popped in the other, and he's just kind of giving them the look. This is just an awesome cover to me. I love this cover. If I ever can get this cover or this book slabbed, I would do it.
No, you?
Yes.
You don't buy
slabs. Yeah, no. Really? I don't know. So my last cover is, of course, from X-Men number 133, where he says Wolverine lashes out and he's tearing through the goons in the basement level of the Hellfire Club. And there's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 goons there probably. And he's just going nuts, slashing through them. This is an awesome cover. Awesome story. Definitely one of my top 3s.
Well, they are great. Next, we're going to go up with Kevin's.
All right.
I was right.
Wolverine number 50. That was around the era where every comic had a special effect.
Yeah.
They used special effects covers all the time around that era. And this one was just different because usually with the special effects covers around this era, it was hologram or it was glow in the dark or it was foil. This one was stood out differently because of the fact that
this was in 1992 as well, just so you know.
Yeah, around that era. They had and this one was just different because they had like slashes through it, and I'm like, it stood out a little bit, and I just thought that was such a really cool cover. And we got Marvel Comics presents Weapon X Marvel Comics presents number 79 with the beginning. I think this was the first Weapon X issue where they actually showed the beginning of the run with Wolverine getting the adamantium implanted in him, and I believe the artist was Barry Windsor
Smith.
And Barry Windsor Smith always had like the minutia, the details of his art always impressed me. The every little detail in all of that was just so pretty. It was so great, so beautiful. And we're going to go again with Wolverine versus the Hulk with Incredible Hulk number 3. I can't really see. That was a 340.
Yeah, 340.
This was Todd McFarlane. Well, was this Todd McFarlane's art? Yeah, right. Yes. Todd McFarlane's art. I didn't really like Todd McFarlane's art with the regular Hulk per se, but the Joe Fix-It Hulk I thought was great. And they had this, and they also had another one, I believe, that was Wolverine versus the Hulk, and Wolverine was reflected in the Hulk's eyes, if I'm not mistaken. It was kind of like an homage of one another, and just the line work for Wolverine and the Hulk on this was just so iconic. I loved it. I thought it was great.
I have that book slabbed.
No.
Wait.
Shocker.
All right, Dan.
So once again, X-Men 50. I just remember, 92. That's when I was, I mean, I'd always read comics, but like the early 90s, that's when I really started getting into, like reading, collecting stuff as opposed to just picking up, whatever was, I would find in a box when my parents went take me to an antique store at the grocery store. And that cover just is so great. Like Kevin said, there were a ton of gimmick covers in the 90s, and this was predated most of them, but this was one that was really cool because, yeah, it had those slash marks. But then when you open that top cover up, then you see the big fight scene that's underneath. And not only was it a great cover, like that's just a fantastic story. That was just a fantastic run on that book by Larry Hama and Mark Silvestri.
Yeah.
So yeah, then the other one would be Uncanny X-Men 251. Just that I believe that was the time when the X-Men were in the Outback.
Yeah.
And just that cover where Wolverine is crucified on the X, and you see the skulls that are there on the ground behind him, and like the kind of mist coming up, and it's heavily in shadow. Like that's just a book that when you see that on the shelf, you say like, man, I gotta. Even if you're not weren't reading X-Men, that's one of those ones where you would have to pick it up and say like, I gotta check this out and see what the hell's going on in this book.
This was the era where they first introduced Jubilee into the comics.
Yeah, it was right around this issue, and it was what the Reavers that had captured him and put him up like that, and Jubilee was the one that eventually came and got him down.
Yes.
And then the other one is the last one for me is Wolverine number 27, just an iconic Jim Lee cover.
Yeah.
Wolverine in my favorite costume that he has, the brown one.
Yep.
Just him. You don't even need background. It's just the kind of Rob Liefeld action lines in the background, but you don't need the background because it's just Wolverine jumping out at you, just a crazed, angry look on his face, claws popped, and you know that when he lands, it's going to be trouble.
Yeah, that's good.
They use this image on a Sega Genesis game of Wolverine too.
Yeah. It's just an iconic image.
Great.
It's one of those books that's worth more than it should be, just because of how cool the cover looks. Like there's nothing really, special about the book outside of the fact that it's just that awesome cover.
Yeah, that's great. Jamie, what you got, man?
All right, you ready for me not to have the same things as the rest of y'all?
Let's see.
No.
All right.
Yeah, of course you had to go different.
Oh God, yeah. I always got to go different on this. So first up, we have Wolverine Volume 2, number 67. It's the second part of Valley of Death.
Is that Textera's art?
That is Mark Teixeira.
Yeah, Mark Teixeira.
Or something like that. Yeah. I recognize it because it definitely speaks of the 90s Ghost Rider feel.
Yeah, I think that this right here is one of, to me, the best looking, like, I'm coming at you Wolverines you will see on paper.
Yes.
Like on cover. It's just astounding to me. It always caught my eye. It's one of the reasons I even remember picking this up off the comic shelf or in the bins when I was thumbing through them. Next up, we've got Wolverine Weapon X. It's a variant homage of when what do you call it? The first time he was being experimented on. I thought this cover was fantastic. We've seen so many variations of it over the years, but to me, this one always stood out. And
he's not furry enough.
Right. Hey, sometimes he's got retconned a lot over the years. Sometimes he's clean shaven. Lastly, we have Old Man Logan number 25 from the second volume. And this is the very first fight with Maestro. I think it's great because of the fact that everyone always leans towards the Hulk when he's fighting him. This is Hulk-esque, but this fight was a drag down brawl the entire time. And the cover does do justice for the interior pages on it.
The Old Man Logan run was tremendous. It was such a great run, great storyline.
Yes, it was. And now let's get into some of our recommended readings for Wolverine. Remember, everybody, this is our opinion. This is us giving you an idea of where you can start. This isn't a solidified, hey, this is the best thing ever. Your opinion does matter, but we want to give you stuff that we think that you're going to be intrigued by. So,
Yes.
with that being said, Kevin, I'm going to start with you.
All right, let's go. Mine is of course in chronological order, not here, but in chronological order. It would be Wolverine Origins would be where I would start. It is the story. It's the spoiler of the actual history of Wolverine, the definitive, where they reveal that it's his name is James Howlett, and he's a kid, and how he basically discovers who and what he's all about. And that's what I would start with. Then on to Weapon X from Marvel Comics Presents. That's the one where he's captured. I'm not sure if they actually establish a timeline, but for some reason in my head, it takes place in the 1970s, and it's when Department H captures him and experiments on him, and realizes that because of the fact that he has a healing factor, he's the only logical candidate that can survive the process of getting the adamantium skeleton bonded to him. And so it's the story of how he becomes adamantium bound, and it's kind of a definitive Wolverine story, and followed by Kitty Pryde and Wolverine.
That was
Kitty
an excellent
Pryde,
mini.
what's that?
That was an excellent miniseries.
Yeah,
Yes, it was. It is kind of the first time that we have Wolverine pretty much establish himself as like a guardian to younger characters. It's the kind of showing that he cares about the young, innocent people around him, and it's such a great story because it takes place mostly in Japan and deeply explores his nature as a samurai, which, as was mentioned earlier, is one of my favorite interpretations of Wolverine. And it sets up one of the most iconic friendships in comic books. Kitty Pryde and Wolverine's deep care and bond of one another that has kind of carried over the decades since that first came out. These are all great Wolverine stories, and I recommend them if you want to read them in this chronological order. Origins, Weapon X, and Kitty Pryde and Wolverine. That's how I would go about it if I were you. Take it or leave it. Enjoy or don't. It's entirely up to you.
All right. Next, we're
I'll
going to
tell
go
you
with.
a real quick fun fact about that Weapon X is Barry Windsor Smith wrote and drew the whole thing in Marvel Comics Presents. He had completely written and drawn the first two parts before he even got permission to do the series. He just kind of had the idea to do it and was like, I'm going to do this. And he just went off and did it on his own and then brought it to him and said, hey, I want to do this. And they were like, all right, this is pretty good. I guess we ought to publish it.
Yeah.
And the one character, the professor in there that's kind of leading the experiment, whenever
Right.
you see him talking to someone that's not there, like talking on the phone, it's never said in the story who it is, but originally, and I can't remember if they ever definitively said who it was, but originally the intention was that it was going to be Apocalypse, and Apocalypse was going to be the one behind doing all the experiments on Logan to give him the adamantium and make him all this.
That's interesting. Huh.
All right. Well, Dan, go with yours.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so in no particular order, yeah, I'll get the original Wolverine miniseries, the one that was Chris Claremont and Frank Miller that did it.
So good.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, I feel like if you want to really read Wolverine, that was the first time that he was solo on his own, supporting a title. It was 4 issues. It shows him a lot of stuff in Japan. It really gets into some of the samurai stuff and some of the honor bound stuff with that. But again, it's his first time on his own outside of the X-Men. So that's a great read. the Age of Apocalypse, when they did that and they renamed all of the X-Men books, and it took place in this alternate timeline. The one for Wolverine was Weapon X, and it's just, I'd recommend reading all of Age of Apocalypse.
Yeah, it was
But
very
the Weapon X one was really cool. It's, he had a cool costume. He shows up and he's missing his left hand. He just kind of has this metal nub there, and you're like, well, what's the deal with that? He's definitely closer to how he was when he was first introduced in the comics, like angry, pissed off, almost feral at times. But he has Jean, like, as everyone that watches the X-Men movies or sees the cartoon or read the comics knows, like, Wolverine is all about trying to get with Jean, and he's with her in that book.
One of the things that I don't know if they've actually definitively established, but an interesting thing about the Age of Apocalypse is Wolverine is missing one of his hands, and it just so happens that Cyclops is missing one of his eyes.
Oh, yeah, they said that in the series.
They actually established
Wolverine cut his eye out.
Yeah. I would have left it like implied, but okay, that's
yeah. They had said that. It was just a fantastic series all the way around. But that Weapon X one was really cool too, and that was also right in the time that was prime Wolverine for his solo book too. When Larry Hamill was writing it and Kubert was drawing it. And it's cool getting to see them interact with all these other alternate universe versions. And then the other one is Old Man Logan. It's the one they loosely based the last Wolverine movie off of, and it's just fantastic. It takes place in the future. The bad guys essentially have won. Most of the good guys are dead. They've divided up the country into these little fiefdoms. Wolverine, was tricked into killing all of the X-Men, thinking that he was fighting villains, and that just broke him. And he just decides to go off and live this quiet life until, like the Godfather, I thought I was out and they pulled me back in. Something happens, he gets pulled back in, and he decides, all right, you know what? I tried to lead this quiet life and be on my own, but you all couldn't let me be. So now I'm just going to go through and I'm just going to deal on everybody that, made this world hell. And
you who I am.
What?
I'm going to remind you who I am.
Yeah. And then it's just this, and it's just this badass, him and Blind Hawkeye just go to town. It's this badass series where they go after and decide they're going to take down the villains that are left. And, like I said, they based the last Wolverine movie, Logan, loosely on it. And Marvel's gone back to the well with that timeline and that particular iteration of the character and that story so many times, and then with so many of the other characters that are still around then.
Old Man Logan, once again, great. Highly recommend that whole run.
All right. Now we're going to go with Sale.
All right. Well, first off, excellent stories, guys. You guys did excellent stories. Here's mine, and I'm gonna make you do this in an order, okay? So, Marvel Comic Presents, that came out between 1988 and 1995, issues 72 to 84. This is the whole setup of Wolverine getting the adamantium process to his skeleton, and that was just an excellent storyline, and it's true. So issues 72 to 84 is what you want to read if you want to see that, and I would start with that first. Okay, that's my opinion. So now to divulge deeper into that, I would then go with Wolverine Volume 2, 48 through 50, which is the Shiva scenario, which is, of course, ends with that, one of everybody's favorite cover of the month there, with the claws slashing through it. This actually kind of continues that and shows you more of the background programming that happened during the Weapon X project, and they're fail-safe against it. And this also had your badass moment in it, Kevin, where Forge was talking about Wolverine with being an Olympic athlete and beating 4 top chess players in his head at the same time.
Yeah,
that badass moment comes out of that series. Those issues there.
Right.
And last but not least, I got to go with my favorite, Wolverine versus Spider-Man. These are 2 characters that are just complete, almost polar opposites, you would say, of how they view life and how they come at life. And it just works well between these two. They say opposites, attract, but the opposites work well together in this situation. And this is definitely a must read, in my opinion. Wolverine versus Spider-Man.
That's what I picked from when we did the Spider-Man episode.
Yep. I had to go with it. Had to.
The fight in the graveyard is one of the coolest, coolest moments of any comic book I've ever read. Like the end result where it's like, I could kill you, you could kill me. We're at that precipice of what do you want to do? We're at a moment where this could turn in any direction right here, right now, based upon the decisions that we make.
Yeah, exactly. And he's almost goading Spider-Man. He goes, yeah, you could do it if you just snap my neck fast enough before I pop my claws through your head. Do you think you can do it?
Well, that's the thing you were talking about, is how we're like, he talks smack, because Wolverine's like, you are strong enough to actually kill me, but you're not a killer.
Yeah. Right.
It's like,
yeah, exactly.
And you were right about the Weapon X thing. Read Weapon X and then the Wolverine Volume 2.
Yes.
48 to 50. That both of those came real close to making my list, but you're right. Like, read the one, and then the other one, is a continuation almost right after it.
Right. Exactly.
Line-wise.
Yep.
What do you got for us, Jamie?
Yep, Jamie. What do you got?
Right. So for mine, I've got something different.
Well, of course you do.
Of course. So I have Old Man Logan Volume 2. This was a 50-issue run. Yes. I thought that this should be in the MCU as the live-action end of Wolverine. This whole segmented area should be. Kind of like what Dan alluded to with the original Old Man Logan. You see a cavalcade of the older characters, but this has now Punisher in it. This has Star-Lord, Hawkeye, the symbiote gang too, along with the Hulk gang. The whole timeline in this is amazing. He gets brought back into the 616 in this storyline where he's this is just a throw out there. He's looking for Hawkeye, and Kate Bishop shows up, and she's like, "No, I'm Hawkeye." He's like, "What happened to Clinton?" She's like, "We're not. You don't know." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And she's like, "We have a lot to talk about then."
Yeah.
Next up, I got Dead Man Logan, which is it's not directly after, but this talks about his final days as Old Man Logan as well. And I think that series really encapsulates like the heart and essence of what Wolverine has portrayed throughout the years. Because even though he's got one hand that has adamantium in it for his claws, the other one's got bone, he's falling apart, he can't see out of one eye, he's still fighting because he has a goal. He's got his mindset. He's not giving up until the very last breath he takes.
One of the things that for me made Dead Man Logan very interesting is you knew that his time was short, and because of that, reading it, you felt a real anxiety about
every issue.
Like, oh my god, we're almost at the end. I can't wait for the next issue. You felt a real anxiety because you had to feel that time was very important during that run.
Yeah, and it was 12 issues, and it literally hit all the heartstrings throughout each issue.
Yeah.
Lastly, I'm going to take Weapon X, and this is the Jason Aaron run. Now, this is a 16-issue run. Guys, I got to admit, this was the first ever full Wolverine series that I've ever read. And it holds true, near and dear to my heart. It was one of the things that got me kind of into Marvel, in a sense. But how often do you see him fight Deathlocks? There's a whole story arc in there. But my favorite issue is issue 16. And guys, if you want to pick it up, it's a standalone issue. It's after Nightcrawler dies, and he leaves.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, like no other characters ever died.
No.
But he leaves Logan a like a note, and he's like, I need you to take this piano all the way to this Buddhist monk hill that's all the way at the top. He goes, but you can't use transport for it. He's like, we made a deal, you have to carry it on your back. And they do like a flashback of him like, yeah, if you ever go, I'll take it. He's like, I promise, because he thought he'd never go. Gets to the top, delivers it. They're like, we don't need this. And he's like, what are you talking about? This is from, Nightcrawler. And they're like, yeah, oh, you're okay. We get it now. Yeah, we didn't need it. Did you learn your lesson though? And he's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, to keep calm and learn to use your anger in a way that you don't need to. Like you can suppress it. You can be a beast, but hide it at the same time.
It's almost Sisyphusian.
Yeah, and he even says at the end, he goes, even though Nightcrawler is gone, he's still teaching me lessons beyond the grave.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was one of the coolest things I've ever read.
That is really cool.
It is.
So those are my three.
Good ones.
Good ones all around, guys. Nice job.
Yeah. So we all know that these storylines come with some of the best writers and artists out there, but we want to talk about who we think is the best writer and artist for certain characters. So with that being said, Dan, why don't you take it away?
All right, for writer, again, I mean, there's so many good ones to choose from, but I'm going to go with Larry Hama. Because when I started, again, in the early 90s, when I really started getting into collecting, and it was, not just picking up whatever random book I found, but like actually, I'm going to buy this series. I'm going to read it every month. That's when he was doing Wolverine, and he did it a long time through the 90s. He was writing it when it was the Weapon X, when they did Age of Apocalypse, and I think that's the way he wrote it then was, is essentially gave us the Wolverine that we kind of have now. Where he was showing the stuff like in the storyline that Sal said, where it's like, oh yeah, here's these days when he was working with the CIA, and it would have a lot of that good stuff in there. Just a great run, and had some great artists that worked with him on it too. And for favorite artist, it's gonna have to go with Jim Lee, because I mean,
good choice.
It's hard between him and John Byrne, because I think those are the two definitive X-Men artists. But yeah, I mean, Jim Lee's my favorite, and he just draws a awesome, fearsome looking Wolverine.
Right.
And there's so many iconic images of Wolverine when you go like, oh yeah, Jim Lee drew that. Like the one cover that I listed, or the that one X-Men cover that's got him and Captain America and Black Widow on the cover. And,
I got that.
Yeah, just so much good stuff.
Yep.
Right. All right, Kevin.
I got to go with Larry Hama too, but since it's already been said, let's go with Chris Claremont. But Larry Hama. But I'll throw out Chris Claremont instead, just because I don't want to be redundant. And the artist, once again, Jim Lee's one of our favorites as well. But since I don't want to be redundant, let's go with.
It's okay if we're simpatico.
No, yeah,
it
you guys.
It just shows you how much like that. Yeah. That's the person that.
Yeah,
but it's the person that's always going to be to you, that when you look at the work, that's who it is.
Yeah.
And you guys can have the same ones. I always have different, so it always works out.
Then I'll go with Larry Hama, and my artist, when I think of Wolverine, Mark Silvestri. Like that is my mental image of Wolverine.
Nice.
All right, Sal.
All right. Well, my guys have already been said. Best artist, John Byrne, and best writer, Chris Claremont.
Yeah, there you go.
That's when I picture Wolverine writing or art. Those are the guys I picture. That's how I picture them.
Absolutely.
All right, and as always, I'm the different one here. My writer is going to be Jason Aaron, because that
also a good choice.
whole Weapon X and everything he did for Wolverine, like
Mhm.
it's made me love the character. Like I said, for everyone out there that's listening or watching right now, if you fall in love with someone who writes a certain story or has like a certain art that you enjoy, but someone else doesn't like it and you fell in love with it for that reason, keep collecting. Don't listen to anybody. Whatever they
Right.
say, they might tell you you're wrong, but you're absolutely right. That's the one thing that I do love about this media and I love about comics is that no matter what, even if you're wrong, you're right. And I say that
Mhm.
in almost every episode.
Art, like,
Um,
he is in the eye of the beholder.
Yes. And for artists, I'm going with Mark Teixeira because if it wasn't for that one issue that I found in a back bin somewhere, I would never have picked up Wolverine.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And every
Very
time
cool.
I see it, it's just like nothing compares to it to me.
Mhm.
I can totally see that. Yeah.
Good choice.
But
Good choices.
yeah, good choices all around. And I think that's a great place for us to stop here today, guys. As always, I am your host, Jamie, here. With me, as always, again, we have Sal.
Hey guys, check me out on YouTube at Sal's Comic Corner, and also on Instagram with the Slab Guy 77.
Yeah, we got Dan.
Yep. Again, you can find me on Instagram, Dan Kelly Art. You can search hashtag Dan Kelly Art, and that's where I post my art and music, like these
Oh, those
sketch
are
cards
awesome,
that I've
Dan.
been working on.
Yeah,
Not all
those
of
are
them
awesome.
not all of them have been posted yet. So, yeah, keep a lookout, and I'll be posting more of those in the next week or two.
Awesome.
All right, Kevin.
Kevin, I run along with these guys here, run the group on Facebook called Comic Character of the Day, where we delve into a character, a cover, questions, and comedy. Wow, that was a lot of alliteration right there. Every day, and we'd love to have you come check us out, join up. Welcome on aboard. Come on. And Jamie, what you all about, man?
Yeah, so you will find that in the link down below. So if you guys want a chance to go jump in for a great community, great people to talk to, trust me, we're all there. You can talk to all of us. The link will be down below for it. But
Sweet.
as always, if you guys have not yet, go check out the CodexStation.com. Like I always say, your one-stop shop for everything Codex. You guys get some merch. It always helps us and the shows progress. So thank you for everyone who's bought so far. Thank you everyone that's reached out. You
You're
can find
welcome.
us on every platform, every podcasting platform you can possibly imagine. We are everywhere. So there's not a reason why you guys should not be able to like, share, subscribe, and follow. You know,
Yes.
we love it when those numbers go up and we love being able to actually communicate with you guys. So every little bit helps. We love the community here. And as always, guys, be kind to one another out there. You never know what anyone's going through, and even having someone smile can change the course of their day or life. So always be kind. And we all will see you in the next one.
Much love. Peace.